Sorry about that. Okay, we're all back. We have our music, we have our chat, and we probably have, oh, we actually do have some viewers. Okay, I managed to fix everything. Alright, so where were we? We were creating our jet engine. So let's bring up that sprite again and see if there was anything that looked kind of like an engine. I think there was like an airplane somewhere along somewhere. Or a rocket. I think there was a rocket on the other one, so let's grab that rocket. It's part 2, and I think it's down here. Maybe those engines are good enough. Let's have a look at what the player... Okay, so the player is sort of like that. In fact, I wonder if we use this one without the engines and then we add the rockets underneath. I think that's going to be actually better. So if we grab this and we just copy and we can paste that over the top. In fact, if we just delete that and then paste that over the top, that'll give us a little bit more space, visual space for the player. In fact, I wonder if we just erase, oops. We just erase this like bottom bit. And that's going to give us a little bit more to play with. Okay. We could just pull these engines off this one, maybe. I wonder. Okay, yeah, I reckon we can just pull that off. So let's grab a new sprite, oops, and just paste that one in. And I have to figure out how they do the transparency on this stuff. So if I delete that, it's not transparent, right? So now if I what did I do last time? Alright, well, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so what we can do is we can save as, go into our game. I'm still doing the tutorials in this Sprite software because it's a little bit unintuitive, I guess. Okay, so if we save as engine and then we can sprite crop, right? Cool. Alright, so that's going to be our transparent engine. And let's grab that and put it in our sprite texture like so. And let's make sure we have our filter off before we re-import. Okay, so it doesn't look much like an engine yet, but we'll add some color and things to it later. But and what we're going to do, at least for now, is we are going to create a CPU particle emitter. Okay, so that's going to shoot some shit, and I think we just want to stick it down a little bit, maybe at position 4. Let's say 2. I think, yeah, cool. Alright, and now we need a little bit of color here. So we don't want to draw to local coords. We don't want gravity. If we're doing it in the right direction, and the color, let's actually just make it black to begin with. Right? Okay. And so without gravity, we're going to need some sort of initial velocity. So let's make sure our direction is pointing down, and we'll say like 100. And the spread, we'll give it about 15 degrees of spread. And then our initial velocity, I think, should be about, what, 50? Okay, we don't need quite that many particles, so maybe let's go 3. And let's make them last about a quarter of that. Cool. Alright, so that's now our little pixelated engine. I feel like that's actually going too quickly. We're not seeing the movement of those particles, so if we bring the velocity down, and maybe put a few more. Still going a little bit too quickly. Wonder, does this direction make a difference? Okay. I think if we give them a little bit more lifetime and a little bit less velocity. Okay, and then I think we will put a little bit of dampening on those as well. So that should kind of make them just slow down as they reach the end. Okay, so that's not quite enough velocity, I think. Cool. How do I feel about that? Maybe the dampening's getting in the way. I want them to sort of spread out and feel a little bit less, a little more organic, but that's actually not too bad. So I think we just go with that, and then we can tweak later. Cool. So now we've got our player here. What we want to do is we want to instance let's just instance this scene underneath our player, and we'll put it down here. Maybe, whoops. So there's a little bit too much visual noise happening here, but if we put it underneath, it should be fine. Okay, cool. And we'll call that jet. Oops. Jet L. And then we will instance. We'll duplicate that. Sorry. And stick it on the other side. And no awards for guessing. That is going to be Jet R. Cool. All right. I'm not quite liking those particles. I think I am just going to tweak them slightly before we move on. Okay, so maybe if we add a little bit more velocity, that's going to make those span out a little bit, but then give them a little bit more dampening and maybe some linear deceleration. And then linear, oh, let's give this a name, jet engine. So any like linear deceleration is just going to sort of make them peter off at the end there. Okay. And I think we've got a little bit too many particles at once. So even just 2, I think, is visually enough, right? Like we don't need it to be like too complicated because we don't have a lot of space on screen. Okay. So now if we go back to the player, I think, right, and then one thing we want to do is we just want to make sure we're not emitting, because in Godot, a CPU particle emitter is going to constantly update the UI, and that's going to slow things down a lot. Okay, and now we're going to need a collision shape on this, so let's add a collision shape, maybe a collision polygon. Oops. Okay, so that's going to define where the player bangs into stuff. Alright, and then I'm just going to copy my player script from my previous game, my prototype, sorry. Let's just add this game to our workspace. So, now got split races. Okay, and I'm going to grab my player script and just copy that into player. And what we'll do is we'll bring that player scene into the level. And maybe just rotate that player by 90 so that they start in a realistic place, and we'll call this player 1. And let's duplicate this, and now we have a player 2, and let's put that player on the other side facing the other way so it's there, and we'll just update their transform rotation to 270, and cool. I think that is a pretty decent level, like a level 1. And whew, what next? Well, the first thing is I want to hide this collision shape. It's just going to get in the way. We don't need to see it. Okay, and in fact, do these players need to be under children of the level? Probably not. Let's just take them out. Stick level at the bottom there. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up our